If you caught a recent stream with our creative director James Penka touring Demo 401, you might have heard him mentioning a set of deck plans created by the THG team. But why would we make deck plans? Why does the world need a new set of Titanic deck plans, and why are they important to the game? Let's talk about Titanic deck plans a bit, and those new ones that the researchers and myself, Matthew DeWinkler, have indeed released. An important thing to realize about Titanic is that we have to research a lot about her from the ground up. She is the most famous ship in the world. I dare say at this point perhaps the most famous vehicle or moving object ever created by humankind. But regardless of that, there's still little direct reference material about the actual RMS Titanic. It's all secondary material, and that is true about deck plans. Deck plans were drafted by hand with graphite and ink on paper, canvas, or vellum by draftsmen at Harlan & Wolff, the ship's designers. Those set of plans were not digital and could not be easily replicated. There is no complete set of Titanic blueprints, deck plans, or general arrangement plans that have known to existed to this day. All plans that we have, which we consider being close to complete, are of her older sister ship, Olympic. These are iron plans, hull plans, line plans. Because they were sister ships, these elements are pretty much the same, with notes for when 401, Titanic, would be changed. For bigger changes, Harlan & Wolff would make separate drawings of what they would need to do for Titanic, and eventually Britannic, but predominantly, they used Olympic deck plans while building the ship, since they were sisters. But for the general arrangements, the layout of furniture, cabins, equipment, non-structural walls, all that has been lost. Either the plans were destroyed by time, a world war II, sunk with the Titanic, or tossed in a bin. So because we lack direct material, which has always been the case with almost everything Titanic, we have to rely on old reliable, Olympic, and then start working out what could be modified with Titanic. While there are assumed plans of Titanic, these were drawn up of her for a liability hearing. Created in 1915, which is, of course, 3 years after she went down, apparent mistakes can be noted and direct references to the plan's original orientation of Olympic, and probably a post-Titanic disaster Olympic at that, complete with a new double hull. And the few small arrangement plans we have are of Titanic's first-class spaces. They are missing details, they're sketchy, and they change based on the dates they were released. So again, we have to do what the research team at THG has always done. Work out the Olympic, take what we indeed know of Titanic, and fill in the gaps with other ships to come up with the most authentic Titanic we can.
And complete the code! Whew. And now, we can make a baby
Titanic. In fact, we have a hierarchy of sort for this. Look at my lovely flowchart, isn't it amazing? We start with our broad general knowledge of the Olympic class in Titanic and apply it to the different aspects that we will scrutinize. First, we get artifacts. With direct measurements and references, it's the most accurate you can get. Then we need to look at photos taken of Titanic in 1912, her sisters, and other ships. It's just unfortunate that they're not always at the ideal resolution and quality. Then, we attempt to interpret deck plans of Olympic, Titanic, and many other ships. From White Star liners, Harlan & Wolff built vessels, Cunard, German boats, and even Queen Mary. We have an extensive list of helpful deck plans, and to see our resources, check out the link in the description below. Probably over 25 ship plans were studied just for the THG deck plans. As we continue down the hierarchy, we have to do more analysis as things get less reliable and more open to interpretation. This is especially true when we take passenger and crew testimonies into account, along with articles in trade magazines. Our final sources to determine the configuration of Titanic are contemporary design and period styles. They were sometimes used to influence decors and styles used aboard, so they are good to use as reference, with a few caveats. So that is our general method of researching these plans, and the whole interior and even exterior of Titanic. That's why this deck plan was a crucial aspect for the alpha and overall game. A 2D reference of where every chair, door, bulkhead, lamp, and illuminated sign, everything possible, to be locked down and agreed upon by the team and easily accessed. This, instead of scattered thoughts and jotted notes, the plan is now our home for notations and sources. The plan started out as an in-house only reference sheet first, and became something more as it grew, as does everything with THG. This doesn't mean our plan is finished, nor the final say on Titanic's arrangements. Just like the final game won't be the end-all in Titanic research, as much as we are putting everything into it as we can, Titanic research is a living and breathing beast. As I like to say with the film Titanic, which was made in 1996, many discoveries have been made since its production. I am hopeful that in another 25 years after we finish Titanic Honor and Glory and this plan, there will be even more discoveries that might require a new THG and new deck plan. You might think that Titanic, as she is decaying and dissolving miles under the sea, has no more secrets to give up, but I will forever argue that she is a bottomless trove of mysteries and secrets for all of us to decode. At this point, I would like to take a moment to thank the fantastic research team at Titanic Honor Glory for their countless efforts to not only make the game, alpha, and demos as excellent and accurate as possible, but these plans. While we can't agree with everything, and I'll discuss that in a bit, it has been an incredible experience having this think tank and collective mind of researchers coming together to pool their resources. I'd like to shout out to Bill Sauter, Ken Marshall, and Simon Mills for their initial and continuing research contributions, especially Bill Sauter, who plans to one day release his own, more detailed and more extensive scale plans of Titanic. They'll even have the location of light switches and piping, things that will just blow your mind and which will scare me to put on a plan, let alone stress me out to create in the 3D realm. For a complete list of all the amazing researchers and others who deserve recognition, please see the link below. So let's talk about the actual plans. They were drafted in a program called AutoCAD. It is used by millions worldwide, especially architects, to create precise 2D and 3D drawings and models. Many of our 3D modelers use a similar sister program, Autodesk Maya, to model the parts of the ship in the game. I am the one who, in AutoCAD, translated original Olympic iron plans from Harlan Wolff to create the basic outlines of the hull and decks, and then went to work figuring out the arrangement of cabins and rooms and furniture with the rest of the research team. I was almost an architect in actuality. I studied drafting and CAD for 5 years at my trade high school, and even though that was over a decade ago, I still have a decent understanding of the program enough to replicate some original plans from the 19-teens. Now, I have mentioned a few times that these are general arrangement plans. That's a specific type of plan that I wish to clarify. A GA plan is used to illustrate where furniture, equipment, cabin allocations, crew quarters, and how the arrangement of the ship will generally be laid out. The hull shape on these plans is pretty accurate, but I can't make a promise that if you use them for large-scale model making, rebuilding the ship, or diving to the wreck, they'll be 100% correct. But since the printed plans are 1/200 scale or smaller, it should be fine. You can see it fits with the trumpeter model kit nicely. Anyway, what a segue. Let's talk about what we actually sell. We have 2 sets of printed plans at the moment, a 1/200 scale set and a 1/350th scale single page. The 1/200 scale set comes on 3 pages, 36 inches by 70 inches, and shows all details rather well. The 1/350th scale is on a single page, 36 by 65 inches, while smaller surprisingly gets the job done. The 3 sheets of 36 by 70 were too cumbersome for some, and I was requested to create something more compact. Right now on the store, you can get these 3 no matter where you live, but shipping is a little bit of a headache and pricey. Blame it inflation, the pandemic, or world leaders, I don't care what. Unfortunately, it is what it is, and I'm very sorry. We're trying to work on a solution, but it's rough to ship internationally from the United States. But the best solution is a digital download, cheaper and comes with over 100 files of the plan. Kyle helped package this together for me. The big package has 3 color variations, blueprint blue, linen beige, and black and white. Decks are split onto their own file, and then all on one, and then 4 decks on one. There are a lot of options, and you can still print them. It just won't be as crystal clear. We're not selling nor releasing the vector PDF files. But the best part of the digital package is that it will always be updated. As I mentioned about research, Titanic is still a living animal, so I plan to upload an updated version of the plan twice a year, depending on what needs to change. If you get the digital package, you can have access to re-download the new version for free, indefinitely. There's already a minor list of changes that have been made since the most recent print run on the site. Again, this shows how the research field into Titanic will never die. Now I want to take you through a few discoveries, mysteries, and even Easter eggs on the plans before we end. Because the plans are still new, and while there is a free version on the site to download, it has our watermarks. I'm going to have the THU watermark blasted over the plans during this part too, so I apologize if you don't like that. Any version you do purchase, however, will of course not have the watermark. One of the exterior elements I considered might be on Titanic based on Olympic were these 2 skylights forward of Funnel 4. Unfortunately, we can never know for sure due to the lack of photographs, but since this air shaft led down to the galley for the restaurants and provided air and light to the space on Olympic, I surmised it could have done the same on Titanic. I was happy to find that this was embraced and researched further by other members of the Titanic community, and has been accepted with continuing analysis into the matter. Once again, Titanic research is so alive. Here's something you might not have realized, but everything on this ship was numbered, and I mean everything, not just cabins and lifeboats. Ventilators, bathrooms, lavatories, sitting rooms, fiddly trunks, pantries, watertight doors. It becomes insane trying to decipher the code to these systems occasionally. But once in a while, you get a clue. Keys found on the body of a steward recovered from Minia will tell you that you need a locker 14 on F deck somewhere. Or Olympic's auction catalog will tell you that the second-class ladies' bathrooms on F deck furthest aft were numbered 39 and 40. Or in his testimony, the chief baker will call the watertight door next to his cabin the 23 Skidoo door. Then you will have to fill in the gaps and see if the numbering system works with the rest of your clues. Now for some areas that the team cannot and will not ever come to a consensus over. Two locations in particular are just terrible: the restaurant galley and the first and second class galley. These spaces are so awful, let me tell you, especially the restaurant galley and pantry. On all three sister ships, these areas were different. On Olympic, this area changed numerous times throughout her life. It's almost as if we can't utilize any plan to figure out what this area would have been like on Titanic. We can go back and forth arguing for one thing or another being a certain way, and each discussion has the same amount of evidence, both backing it up and not. It is such a frustrating place, and if any area on this plan, and Titanic Honor and Glory the game, were to change, it is this, the restaurant galley. But that brings up an excellent last point on the topic of mysteries. If you see a question mark on the plan, that means it is an undecided judgment call made by me, the draftsperson. At the end of the day, I made these plans. I am the final say on these things, so the responsibility is mine, and mine alone for any errors that might arise. So if you see a tiny that means we didn't have 100% concrete evidence to make a choice, and it is up to you to dive further into the world of Titanic research and decide. Sometimes though, I left you a little hint, a letter with a to represent which ship or ships the space is generally based on, when we couldn't 100% go with Titanic. But just because I didn't know everything doesn't mean I couldn't have some fun. There are a couple of what you might call Easter eggs, references to specific Titanic passengers, moments, and other elements in the plan that didn't detract from the overall feel or purpose, which were included. Here are two small ones that I will spoil for you. Check out cabin C22. You'll find a child's cot bed, which was made by the furniture company Hoskins & Sewell Limited. This is one of the cabins occupied by Rebecca Daniels, Lorraine Allison, Alice Cleaver, and Trevor Allison, aged 11 months. This portable folding child's cot would have been taken out of a storeroom by a steward before the passengers arrived, and perhaps Trevor would have slept in one just like this. And finally, go to the poop deck and notice one solitary deck chair seemingly out of place. Is it a mistake? What the heck is going on here? But look closely at this photograph of Titanic at Queenstown. Look at her poop deck, and all the passengers milling and willing about. One gentleman took the initiative to bring a deck chair from, presumably, second class to the poop deck. That long journey, up and down a couple flight of stairs and around deck equipment, logging a heavy wooden deck chair. He certainly deserved to take a long, soothing stretch. I felt that this moment of relaxation needed to be immortalized on the deck plans. Thanks so much for watching. If you want to check out more about these deck plans, visit TitanicDeckPlan.com. You'll find a free version to download, which will only wet your whistle, trust me. See you around in the demos and the alpha.